Hey everyone, Heather Williams here from California AfterSchool Network for another Fireside Chat. As usual, happy to be joined by Michael Funk from the CDE Expanded Learning Division. And then today we also have a familiar face as one of our guests, Sterling Williams, also from the Expanded Learning Division at CDE. So it's been a while since we've had a fireside chat, but there's a lot going on, lots of updates. We certainly can't cover everything and all the details in the amount of time of a fireside chat, but we'll be sharing resources to dig deeper into all of the things that we provide updates on. But we'll chat a little bit about the budget, LAO recommendations, if you've been hearing about that, the release of FAQs, and upcoming TA opportunities. So we will just jump right in. And Michael, there's been a lot going on with the budget. And last time we did a fireside chat, or one of the last times, we talked a little bit about the LAO recommendations. And I know they have revised recommendations out. So just wanting to chat about that for a few minutes. So Michael, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Heather. Well, the LAO stands for the Legislative Analyst Office. It is part of the state government, and they do analyze the budget and provide recommendations to the legislature and to the administration, the governor's office. And historically, we've talked about this when they were doing budget hearings last budget season, and when it was time for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program to be discussed. The typical format would be that the Department of Finance would have someone presenting, the California Department of Education would have someone presenting, the Legislative Analyst Office would have someone presenting, and then there would be questions and answers from the Assembly or Senate committee, and then there would be public comment. And in those, both the Senate and the Assembly hearing last year, the Legislative Analyst Office recommended that the funding for expanded learning opportunities be limited and not increased to the level that the legislature was planning on putting in the governor put into the budget, and what was ultimately passed. So they have consistently advocated for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program to be reduced. And I'm not here to, I have deep respect for the Legislative Analyst Office. Now I'll say LAO. I have deep respect for the LAO and the people there. They do good work. There's often a disagreement between the different branches of government and the LAO about what the revenue is going to be. And in fact, it's almost, you can almost count on the fact that whatever the predictions are now, they're out of date the next day, because we're in some crazy territory. And the predictions in most every year I've been here, whatever the projection was, even when the May revise came out, which is the second version of the governor's budget, is called the May revision because it comes out in first week of May. They also update their projections for revenue, and those are typically wildly off base or significantly off base by the time the actual end of the fiscal year comes around. So what I'm receiving, and what several people are receiving, is an alarm going out throughout the system that if the LAO is requiring or suggesting that ACE's 21st century be adjusted, that ELO-P needs to be reduced. There are different versions of this circulating out as people have summarized the LAO report. And Heather, as I'm thinking here, we might want to just put the link to the LAO report when you send out the chat later, just because rather than read somebody else's analysis of it, you should just read the LAO report. It's not that long. What's consistent, what hasn't changed, is the governor's administration and the legislative staff have all said it is our, I mean, and the legislative leaders, not the staff, I mean, the members have said, it is our intent to protect the historic investments that were made in the last budget year. And we can balance this budget without significantly cutting those historic educational investments. That's almost a verbatim. That hasn't changed. So what I've heard is that there are districts who have said, well, we don't know how long this money is going to be around, so we're not really going to ramp it up. We're not going to ramp up this program. Why would we do that if it's only going to be around for a year? And then I heard that some districts and county offices were just getting more comfortable. Okay, well, maybe because, it looks like it's stayed in the governor's budget. And now with this latest round of the LAO report, even some of those people who were feeling more comfortable to move forward are now, rightly so, questioning. So none of this is to point a finger or blame at anybody, not LAO, not the people who are having second thoughts or somewhat of a shockwave. I'm just telling you, this is not the time to panic. Nothing's going to happen between now and the May revise. And every indication we have so far is that the governor will preserve the $4 billion in the budget, this year's budget for the ELO program. And every indication is that the governor's office plans to fully fund the rate increases that were established 2 years ago for ACEs in 21st century. Will there be increases? I mean, some people still want to advocate for a cost of living increase for ACEs. Some people still want to advocate that this ELO-P get fully funded to $5 billion. I'm just going to be honest. The indicators are that those things are not going to be on the table this year. I'm not saying you shouldn't advocate. Don't hear me say that. I'm saying if you want to be get a real sense of my projections, that increases will not be on the table. So hope that helps. Turn it back to you, Heather.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, and so just if you haven't seen the budget yet, it's been out since middle of January. And yes, as Michael's saying, everything's projected for the next year to stay at level funding. And I've read through the LAO recommendations myself, and I will definitely include the link when I send this out and post it. And just know, I also want to iterate that the LAO does not have a problem with the program itself. They actually think it's a very necessary, valuable program, and it should be funded. They're looking for efficiencies in funding. That is what they are actually very much responsible for. And so as it's a new program, they're looking for opportunities to find savings in the budget. And so I know you mentioned this in the past, Michael, but one of the best strategies is to continue planning the program, plan a high quality program, spend money on a high quality program, so we can demonstrate not only is there a need, but these funds are being put to use to actually provide high quality programs for our students. And so that will help demonstrate that, this level of funding is what is actually needed for the program.
And I just want to keep it really, you're not saying this, Heather, but when I talked about like the best defense against a budget cut is to do overperform, like it's a good offense. All that's true. But that's not the primary reason programs should move ahead and put some plans in place and do their best. The primary reason that should happen is because our students deserve it and our families deserve it and they need it. I've heard from some county offices that are part of our system of support, which got $5 million in the budget this fiscal year to be able to provide more support with districts who have ELO-P only funding. I've heard people wonder, how long is this money going to be around? We can't hire someone because we don't have a guarantee of, well, here's the 5 million for the county offices that are part of the system of support to be funded for providing support is in the law of the state of California. It's not just a line item in the budget. It is in ed code. And that's as secure as you're going to get anywhere. I mean, that's unusual. It's very unusual for that kind of a line item to show up in education code. So I think I was going to stop. So I'll actually stop.
It's important points to clarify. So yeah, so hopefully that's that helps provide everybody with a little bit of context about what's going on with the budget and the LAO recommendations and all that. Simple message: forge ahead and keep planning and keep implementing. That's what our students deserve, and we think we have good reason to believe that the dollars will continue to be there to make that happen. And in support of implementation, we know there's been a lot of questions, and FAQs is probably Sterling's favorite topic. And so I'm going to turn it over to Sterling in just a moment, but I'm going to share my screen real quick. So a lot of you probably saw the announcement come out earlier this week that FAQs, much awaited FAQs, have been released this week. And so we're not going to go through all of these because there are now a total of 51 FAQs on the page, really addressing a lot of the questions that have been going into CDE. You can see when they were last updated. So there is a ton of content in here. Highly recommend, if you have not looked at this yet, to go in, scroll through these, see what's been added. A lot of these were in here before, but were updated, have additional clarification, just based off of all the information that's been coming into CDE. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Sterling, I know you've spent many hours working on getting these FAQs updated, and you know them well. And so maybe you can provide some highlights of a few of the things that have been updated or added.
Sure. Thanks, Heather. I mean, just for context, we were working on a number of these FAQs after AB 181 was passed, and going through the system and the processes behind the scenes, that was taking a little time. And then before we knew it, AB 185 came out. And so we were behind the scenes trying to adjust language, making sure that the guidance we were providing was going to be accurate and timely. And then at that point, we also saw there was a need to then add some other things. A lot of the FAQs that get released by us are not just generated by discussions internally, but by the folks that are probably watching this fireside chat, those that are attending the office hours, those that are participating in convenings and subcommittees. A lot of people are leaning forward in this new initiative. So I just want to give a thank you to all of those folks that are doing their part and helping out with the process. But yes, we have 51 now. Who would have thought? If I were to look at the total and the ones that are kind of standing out for me and might be the most impactful, I think I would start with the instructional aid question. This is kind of level setting that the minimum requirements for being an expanded learning professional is that of an instructional aid based on district policies. And so the based on district policies part is the portion that we want to highlight because there's quite a bit of local decision as to what that looks like. Definitely testing your competency level on a number of different things, but really pointing out that districts and LEAs have the power and authority and are encouraged to update their own policies and in some cases create new instructional aid tests or exams to better, develop their workforce and to not create any structural barriers. So I think that's one that I would highlight for folks to really take advantage of when they're trying to look at staffing opportunities. The next is allowable expenses. So the stands are still the same. CDE will not approve or deny individual expenditures. but we have borrowed some language from the federal regulations in an effort to help LEAs kind of go through a process so that they would feel a little more comfortable in spending money and making purchases. So just language around, being consistent with other LEA procedures, right? Being reasonable, being necessary, and then that paired with EDCO, which talks about ELO program funding going towards ELO program activities, right? We feel like this is enough for anyone in charge of making those purchases and investments to go ahead and do that and do so with confidence. The third is around students with special needs. A lot of conversations within the department as, this is a very important issue for us and trying to navigate getting the language out there that's within Ed Code and also providing guidance to the field. And so we've tried to do that through the FAQs, and one that I'm happy that we were able to share is around the support that's already there. LEA shouldn't feel as though they're alone in trying to craft the program that would be inclusive to all students. There are a lot of different technical assistance tools out there and systems and individuals, right? So definitely encouraging LEAs to bring them to the table as they're having those conversations and trying to design a program that's going to be inclusive to all students. And that really goes to the program plan, which is where folks need to start. You don't have to send your program plan to us. That's something we've talked about quite a bit. So there's no due date for the program plan. We do encourage LEAs to create their program plan before they start. And that's using a lot of data that they've gathered through their students and families and their communities. So if you don't have that data, then this is me saying that you should get that data. This will help you then design a program that will meet the needs of your students and their families. So I think overall, those are the ones that I would like to highlight. Again, we're really excited to have this out. We'd like to listen to the field and try to figure out what the pressing issues are, and then create the guidance to better support them.
Thanks, Sterling. And I want to say a special thanks to you because I know the amount of hours and late nights and mostly late nights that you've been spending trying to navigate that process and get these updated. And I think it's also important for folks to know it's a crucial resource, but it is not the only resource. And this is because there is so much flexibility in this program. This provides a good amount of information, but this isn't like it's going to answer 100% of folks' questions. That's why we have a lot of different TA opportunities that are available. And I'll chat about those in just a moment. One of the other things I wanted to flag, because I think this is embedded throughout the FAQs, is whether it's office hours or talking to individuals directly or just different places that we're in, I'm still hearing a lot of like, can my ACES kids access the ELO program? And a lot of talk about this ELO program as a separate funding source, and it is a separate funding source, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a separate program. So we have a lot of schools that already have expanded learning funding through ACES or 21st Century, and ELO-P greatly expands our capacity to provide expanded learning. But if you have those other funding sources, you really get to pull those funds together to provide one comprehensive program. This isn't EDCO. This is, the legislature talks about this. The administration talks about this. The intent is for these programs to run as a single expanded learning program that might be funded through different funding sources, including ELO-P. And a lot of the FAQs provide clarity for what that looks like on the back end in terms of how do you count things, how do you, expenses and whatnot. That being said, I know that is that can be it's challenging concept to explore, understand, navigate, and so I'm going to use that to plug our upcoming ELO-P Spring Academy. We do have a save the date on the CAN website, and we'll be sending out more details to the field soon, but we're going to have a series of workshops on different hot topics around ELO-P implementation. And one of them is this notion of what does it mean to have a single comprehensive program? How do you put that together? What does that look like? What do students and families experience? And then how do you navigate that on the back end? So just going to plug that. Like I said, more details coming soon. Also, office hours. Office hours is a great way to say, like, yeah, I read that FAQ, but there's like some nuance, or I have some questions, or it wasn't even in the FAQs. Can you help me understand? So our next office hours are tomorrow. And we have a couple more scheduled, and we'll likely be releasing spring office hours soon. So we'll link to that. And then lastly, I do want to plug our system of support for expanded learning. We have 16 county offices of education across the state. And as Michael talked about earlier, additional funding has gone out to those folks. They're ramping up their capacity right now to provide coaching and support to you all. So if you have not connected with them, now is the time to connect with them. We'll provide the link to contact information in the Fireside chat in terms of how to get a hold of those folks as well. Those regional teams are a great resource, and they can connect you with other districts and providers, so you can not only get the support from them, but connect with peers as well. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. So Michael, Sterling, thanks for coming on. And Michael, any closing comments, thoughts? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, a couple things. It's always effective to lift up promising practices. And I think if anyone really wants to get a good handle on these FAQs, I'm going to suggest that you read them out loud to your small children right before you put them to bed. I think that would be a great thing to do. I actually read them, please. When Sterling says we developed, the we there are several layers in the department. The catalyst is our division, but then they go here, then they go there, and these attorneys look at them, then they go here, then they go there, then they go outside the department. And we were hoping to get all these things released in November. They're out now, so they're worth reading. And thank you again, Sterling, and all who were involved who might view this. And just, I'm seeing so many amazing things and hearing of so many amazing things, and districts and district leaders who might have been hesitant and might have been a little bit stuck maybe 12 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, who are expressing to me how enthusiastic they are about this money and what it's doing for their kids and families in their school, making a difference. And I was at a middle school. Well, I'm getting reports from around the state that many of you are signs on the walls or logos on the T-shirts. And I just received something in the mail today from an organization that put out a catalog, and right on the front was this square, and it said "Lead with Love." And we're having an impact, folks. Keep leading with love, keep serving. Let's do what's best for kids and families, and take care of yourself. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Thanks, Heather, for hosting, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Sterling.
Thank you.
See you all next time.
Take care.